Boveda, what we do, just real quickly, because it's not so much about me, but about these guys just as much as we produce these little humidification pouches that solve a very valid problem in the industry, which is evaporation. So if you have flour and it's too dry, you lose a lot of its potency because the terpenes would evaporate with the water that's leaving the plant. So, and also when you sell flour that's too dry, you lose money because it's, it's sold by weight. And when it's too moist, you might lose everything to mold, which is equally bad. So our product will keep it within that specific range, if you believe ASTM at 65 to 55% relative humidity. And it's all natural. So if you want to talk to me about it, we have a booth out there. So that's it about me. Boveda, interestingly, is a small company. So we're made of like 30 people in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. But we sell on a global level. And of course, this would not be possible just for us on our own. And so we rely on a big myriad of partnerships, as do these guys here. So let me just give you a quick introduction here to our panel. So let's, ladies first, and we start with the one that has the longest commute, Fleta Solomon. She's the CEO, no, you're managing director, that's your official title, for Little Green Farms out of Perth, Australia. And remember when I met you the first time, roughly a year ago, you still claim to be the only local producer for cannabis in Australia. Is that still the case?
You bet, sure is.
So can you give a little introduction about you and your company?
Thanks, Benny, absolutely. Hello, thank you for having me and thank you for being here. My name is Fleta, and yes, the perks of coming from Australia. Apparently everybody feels sorry for me, so I get to go first. Look, it's been a remarkable ride and journey for Little Green Pharma. The Australian market opened up towards the end of 2016, and so a couple of years on, here we are. We are the first and the only producer in Australia to be actually producing, manufacturing, and then providing a cannabinoid medicine for patient use. So. We don't know, we're probably a good year ahead of the rest of the Australian companies, so we need to move forward. We are actually relocating our head office to Europe for the purpose of actually exporting our products now into the German market, because as we've heard, the demand is really high, particularly in Europe, and so we have a unique opportunity in Australia to provide those EU GMP manufactured products into Europe. But to do that, it is a long way from home and we need strategic partnerships. So moving forward, our goal as we move into Europe is about strategies and those relationships.
All right, thank you, Fleta. So next young lady on the panel, Alison. She's founder and CEO of Cannabis at Work, and the name gives it away a little bit. You're an HR expert. You actually ventured from the HR industry into the cannabis space. Can you just tell us a little bit about the challenges that you see in that field?
Absolutely. So in Canada, which is where we operate predominantly right now, Cannabis at Work helps cannabis companies with recruitment and headhunting, so finding cannabis staff for their facilities or their business, as well as providing other HR consulting services to growing businesses as they need to develop out those programs. So what we see in Canada is, we have the good fortune of very much being a strategic partner to our clients and the people in the industry as they look for very specialized talent for their facilities and cultivation operations, as well as some of the other ancillary businesses in this space. And so it's been a really great opportunity. We've been in the Canadian market for almost 4 years, so we've really grown up with a lot of the momentum that we've seen over the last while, and have the opportunity to provide a lot of insight to new companies entering the space about what they need in terms of some of the technical skill sets of their employees and how that all fits into the regulatory environment in Canada. What we see in Canada with the growth of our recreational market is such an incredibly fast-paced market, such fast growth in these organizations. And so one of our major strengths is to take some of the stress off of somebody who might be in the process of getting their license in Canada, and pair that with the large database of qualified cannabis employees that we have, and make some of those matches occur and some of that pairing up. So I'll leave it there for now.
All right, thank you. Now, from left to right, we have Jonas Strauman from Switzerland. So I would say Jonas because it's all English now. Founder and CEO of Redecann, which is funny enough. So I remembered, so I was trying to research on your project, Redecann. I didn't find anything. So I wrote you an email and said, what's up? What's all this about? So can you shed a little bit light? Because you actually presented it here at ICBC, right? That's a brand new thing.
Yes, exactly. Redecann is a new company. We are a strategic partner for cannabis companies. On our own, we for sure have also strategic partnerships. The most important, I guess, is the Life Science University of Prague, enabling us to offer services to cannabis companies who seek possibilities to either back their existing products with credible and independently created information on a really scientific and statistically significant ones, or who seek to develop new products to further their business within the cannabis industry. This we back up on top with our own film crew, which is there to document the efforts that our clients are doing within those research and development networks. And we co-own the social media networks of High Life Media, which have a concluded reach of around 25 million followers. So all in all, Redecann is for the companies out there a possibility to conduct research and development, combine it with content production and publication possibilities in really strong networks, in order basically to develop and execute complex strategies that will lead to clearly unique and long-lasting competitive advantages for them. So Redecann took quite a long preparation phase, for sure. We finally, after 1.5 years of pushing and fighting, we got to sign the cooperation contract that allows us to have that business model and provide that business model to you all. And because of that long ongoing fight, and since it just happened lately that I was allowed to sign that contract, we decided to launch completely Redecann here at the ICBC. And so that's why also in your primary clarifications you didn't find a lot. That was also on purpose, because we wanted to really like do it right and like provide all information in the good quality at the right time. And we considered ICBC to be a perfect situation to do so. That's also why I'm clearly lucky to be here and have the possibility to sit on that panel.
Thank you, Jonas. And then next on to Liam. Liam McGreevy is director at Elite Healthcare Distribution, a wholesale distributor, but also importer for medical cannabis and beyond, everything that's catered to the healthcare industry, also the sports industry, if I'm not mistaken. Could you just quickly introduce yourself, please?
Thanks. So yeah, Elite Healthcare Distribution is an import and distribution business for pharmaceuticals, for unlicensed medicines in the UK. We're also looking to operate across Europe, so we've got applications underway for the UK market right now, and soon be expanding to Germany and Denmark and other countries, building up our sales force. So the partnerships for us are extremely important in that regard. We've got doing distribution for 11 years. The relationship between supplier and distributor is crucial to managing the market. I think in the digital age, a lot of brands now want to go direct to the consumer. It's understandable they want to own the consumers in their markets. At the same time, you need boots on the ground to help manage that. So that's one thing that we do. Another business that we are exhibiting here with Ethnopharm is consulting and brokering. So again, there's a wide network of producers out there that are all looking at access to these markets. We help them to understand compliance around genetics, product import approvals, finding compliant distributors, understanding what types of products they can put at the market and how to do it. So again, the partnerships are extremely important there.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, we have Emanuel Kotzian, sorry, Emmy, founder and CEO of Agentur Sowjet, not to mistake with the Soviet Union. I hope your company lasts longer than this one. So You're not only publisher of well-renowned publications that we have here in Germany and Eastern Europe, but you're really an icon in the industry. You're in it for over 20 years, I guess, right? So could you quickly introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you for a short introduction. And yes, agency Sowjet is our name. Don't be scared. It's a Russian word. Translated, it means the advice. So nothing that serious. And when the Soviet Union disappeared from this planet, they had not proclaimed they want to have the copyrights about Soviet. So we jumped in the game and we grabbed it. One of the best investments in my life. We started with very simple thing 20 years ago, with publishing media, with multiplying information about cannabis. Because at this time we could not think about dealing with medicinal cannabis. There was just no knowledge, and through this media, you can imagine through 20 years of media producing, we have of course a very lot of contacts and sources of information, and I'm really very proud that through the many years we kept very far ahead. When something new happens in this market, we know it first. This is really one of our benefits. And then the next 20 years, I will make it short. Because we always have tried to figure out what is possible to do already legally with cannabis. So we founded a lot of companies and we started a lot of projects. Many of them failed. Also about failing in projects and how to deal with it, somebody should talk one day. But globally, in this moment, we are 7 different companies. In this moment, of course, most important companies, our distribution of CBD products in Germany and over Europe. And I can support your words totally. And I want just to add one strategic advice from my side. Whatever business kind it was finally the advice of our lawyers who really made us doing it. So please take really all those regulations, those which has to do with cannabis and also those which don't have to do with cannabis, serious, and try to follow them. Otherwise, no business is possible. And I told it 2 weeks ago in Barcelona on the similar stage. First, I try to figure out if my partner can explain me his legal situation with his product on this market. And then the next question I have to my potential partner, and do you have also a lawyer who proves your theory? And then we can talk about each kind of very interesting projects.
Okay, can we give a quick hand sign? Who has a good lawyer here on stage? Everybody? You have a good lawyer? We have a very good lawyer. You also have good lawyers?
Have to.
Okay, very good. So it's thank you, Emmy, for this quick start, because we had to talk about strategic alliances, and we have heard it. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't want to jump over you.
Yeah, because I think his advice truly is a very good one, because compliance for companies that are in a market that used to be suppressed for decades, they must make a stand in order to make this industry survive and thrive, because the backbone that our industry definitely needs is scientific information, credible information, resulting in quality products that on both people can rely on, because only on those means I think we can really reframe that public perception in a way so we all have a future. And connecting to this, his advice truly was right, but it was just considered, as far as I see, onto the now, because compliance always is a matter of the now. What do I got to do to not be closed down tomorrow? But that isn't the whole picture, because the whole picture is that there is also a after tomorrow and the following week or the following year. And basically, so with the strategic partnerships, I mean, strategy, what is strategy for companies? It says, Drucker, one of the good company strategist. He said it's doing the right thing. Porter said it's using the capacities that are available in order to create long-lasting, sustainable, and unique competitive advantages. So I think the now needs to be set to have a stable base, but the future always needs to be considered. It's a bit like playing check. If you just think about your next step, you maybe run into problems that you didn't see ahead. So try always to focus a couple steps ahead. Try to prepare them to not suddenly get stuck, and always be aware that, I mean, there's a lot of money in our industry, but I always tend to say that money isn't everything, because especially if you have more businesses or different departments in your business or whatsoever, as soon as you run into one issue, it will seize the growth of everything, because first of all, you need to take care of that problem. So I think working hassle-free in good working synergetic corporations, enabling unique strategies, that is the way to go, and that would be also my advice to in terms of strategies.
I just wanted to say, sorry, on the legislation piece, often this stuff is changeable, and it's written to provide structure to a market. And we've found that both in UK and places like Australia, if you're willing to put the effort into reading it and understanding it thoroughly, you'll find that there are holes and gaps and opportunities. I think that's a big thing, and when you have the right sort of partners that can help you navigate that and help you find the opportunities, especially in a growing market like this, early stage, that's where you make the most money, is in the niche opportunities, highest margin, that kind of thing. So it's finding good partners to help you with that process. We've done it for a couple of different people. We had a producer in Australia that's going to be exporting flour. They didn't think they were allowed to export flour until I read the regulations and found a little loophole, and they asked the question a couple of times and got a positive response.
Okay.
They weren't even considering the previous.
So the question is, how do we find good partners then? So.
But I think there's an important point here too, that one of the strategic partners needs to be the regulator. Like in Canada, Health Canada is the government ministry that oversees cannabis production and distribution, and they're learning all this for the first time as well. And so I think it's been really important to see companies be successful when they build bridges to the regulator, and they use that as one of the partnerships that they leverage.
Yeah, I would say people tend to shy away.
Be afraid of the regulator.
From regulators, but like in my experience, most of them are open to it. If you approach it in the right way, you engage them in the right way, and you have the right mindset, particularly around compliance and regulation, they will work with you 100%.
So would you approach regulators yourself? Do you have interest groups that you would cater to? So because dealing with regulators, I think we all agree, is very important. So what's a good strategy actually to tackle that? Maybe Fleta, what's your take?
Yeah, look, we learnt a little bit later in the piece that having relationship with the government bodies and the politicians is definitely the way to go. You just have to. The patients are the biggest advocates and have the biggest voice of the lot. There is nothing more powerful than patients. However, when we're navigating such a complex new industry, we definitely need to be lobbying all the time to our governments. One of our strategic partners is exactly that, is a lobbyist firm, and we've got a wonderful relationship with them. But I think what makes that so strong is that we actually both share a vision. And you kind of, like any strategic partnership, any alliance, it will fail unless you have a joint shared vision. Without that, you sort of go off track a little bit, and you need to be able to have sort of your KPIs or your metrics, and you need to be able to communicate with them regularly and keep coming back to that end vision and the goals that you shared to get an objective in the first place.
I think it's absolutely right what you're saying. The government institution, and to work closely together with them, is a crucial point to have a sustainable survival. However, I think that communication basically happens at the recipient. So the information you provide must fit the reality and the expectations of those independent bodies, which are in that case the governmental institutions. So usually, as we have realized, bringing in a third party, which is on the same level, such as in our case, the university, Life Science University of Prague, creating statistically significant and independent information with a high credibility, can get you actually in collaboration with those state bodies a long, long, long way. And there, that long, long, long way, basically, that is then that, to be able to go that long way, that is then that unique competitive advantage, because you can lay back, because you know you're safe, which means you can focus on actually the work in your market and not constantly try to clean up behind yourself in order to not suddenly be pushed out of the game.
Emmy, you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, I'm in a really comfortable situation, because exactly by the fact that we're doing the newspapers now for nearly 20 years, and the fact that this newspaper is read by a lot of people in the Ministry of Health and whoever is in this game, of course, we always talking with exactly those people. Sometimes more friendly, sometimes not that much. But in fact, whenever we publish something in our newspaper, we see some weeks later a response. Somebody has read something, and this is even really super nice situation. Still, we have to keep like diplomatic, and we have to deal also with the Ministry of Health still. And of course, it's a key question. Don't be shy. Please go to the responsible. They won't bite you. They are normal people. Then they have to explain you the regulation exactly. We are living in a very transparent state in this case. Ask them. Sometimes they even like to talk about their work.
And there's always going to be a next election. So they're very interested in what public opinion might be, maybe. All right. So we heard a lot about, choosing the right partners, what type of partners we have. But how do you? What I'm really interested in is, what is if you happen to have a partnership that doesn't work? This is what I found from my experience, is where you learn most, basically, is from something that didn't work out, and then you analyze it, and then you have a chance to actually make it better. Is there anything that one of you guys want to add to this, maybe?
I think, to be entrepreneur, it means to have a great endurance. It means also sometimes to be patient, but you should never mistake endurance with patience, because patience implies to be waiting for the wrong thing. Endurance means keeping to try on to do something for the right thing. So a Japanese quote says, it's better to turn around halfway than staying on the wrong track. And I think to be able to define at some point when you are on the wrong track, which is the question we're talking about here, you need to have a really good understanding of the goal where you're going to, and you need to put milestones in the way to be able to measure the development that you take towards there. Unless you do that, you won't be able to measure your way. And yes, I think everyone who's here has a bit some experience with things that were going sideways. So once you realize that, it can be painful. It usually is always painful, actually, but I think you will get over it. And that is then where really that endurance comes in, that you need to have, to get back up, wipe off the dust, and keep going. Find a better partner. They surely are out there.
Yeah. Had somebody maybe an example, like something that's specific? Because I agree with you, but it's like general. Do we have something we can actually touch?
Yeah, I'll share something with you. It's the most integral and important relationship, strategic alliance that this business has, that Little Green Pharma has, and that is with our manufacturer. Now, to get speed to market and to get to where we are today and to be the leader in Australia, we did that through a strategic partnership with one of the few GMP opiate manufacturers. And it's EU certified, and we were able to quickly get to where we wanted to because of that certification. Now, our conversations derail all the time because I have a cultivation company. We've also got, that's one business unit, and on the flip side, we also have the manufacturing and the pharmaceutical. So we've got multiple business units. There's always going to be disconnects in between. And sometimes we absolutely fly off the handle at each other because we don't agree. And sometimes we think, wow, what would happen here if we walked away from each other? What would happen? But you know what? It never will. Because we're so tight, because we both share a vision. And the moment that the two companies start to have this little argy-bargy, we get back on track, we determine what those milestones and those goals are, we get back and say, why are we actually here? What is our purpose? And then we manage to get through it, and then we get back on. And I think that that's communication. Mm-hmm. And so if we're not communicating all the time and also enjoying the little wins that we have, then that's where it completely can be derailed. And I think that was a really important lesson, certainly that we've learned, and hopefully you can take away from as well.
I would also say, additionally to that, that in every business, if you work really with people who are highly motivated, which will be a key factor to your success, it is possible to get into exactly such situations, which is nothing bad, which you should not be afraid of. It's just a function or a result of that high motivation that everyone brings in, who sometimes just have a different understanding that needs to be brought on one point. So that, let's say, living discussion that you could have in such a situation, it's really nothing bad, despite the fact that it could have a bad appearance in the first place. Just try to get over it, stick to your people, and don't be afraid of the little bumps in the road.
Yeah, I think from my experience in the distribution sense, the shared vision and the goal, they need to be aligned, and setting milestones is extremely important for evaluating everyone's performance as you move forward. And you have to be realistic. Markets change and shift. The medical cannabis market is very early doors. There's a lot of work that goes into driving prescriptions. The CBD market is changeable. It shifts around. I think the important thing is to have a relationship between the two. The communication is important, to understand where things are going, and the fact that you're putting the work in, that you're still striving to achieve the goals. That's what sort of keeps everybody aligned in that relationship.
Mm-hmm. And that includes having the right people on board. So Alison, is there a right way of finding people that have these, talents to secure them for your company in order to have these discussions with your potential partners?
A right way to hire the right people, essentially?
Yeah, that's probably hiring your agency, right? But it's but what do you do? So first for me would be how do I choose the right partner, like HR partner, mm-hmm. and what should we look at in the discussion with a potential partner like yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that from my personal perspective, when we're working with people in the industry, is we want there to be an alignment around our goals and have the confidence that we're going to add value to their process if we're the service provider. I think more broadly, I think it also comes down to finding people that you like and that you can communicate with, and that you do have a sense of trust even early in that relationship. On the hiring side, I think the challenge with cannabis that we see in Canada is that there are specialized skill sets, like to find somebody who has the background that they understand cannabis but can also grow that product at commercial scale is a unique skill set. There's not that many people in Canada or in this country that have that ability. We have a lot of what we call black market or gray market growers that have a ton of expertise, which is important, and we try to bring those people into the industry. That can be challenging at times if they're not a cultural fit with the regulatory side. And so it's really about finding the right people. And then I think it's just looking ahead to what are your strategic objectives. Like if you want to be a GMP certified facility and operate in the EU market, then making sure that you're going and finding people who have experience in GMP from other sectors and bringing them in. So, I mean, I think there's some very industry-specific things when we're talking about hiring people into the industry or into organizations. I think the no asshole rule applies probably when you're hiring for your own organization of good people. But more broadly, if you're looking at a service provider or a strategic partner, I think how can you add value to each other's world? And, you know, are you aligned in terms of really being bought into the cannabis sector? I'll expand for just one more moment. Like when we are looking to engage with service providers and to support our business and our business growth or services that we're providing, you know, we also look for companies that are focused exclusively on cannabis. You know, a really simple example is we're producing a large cannabis career festival in Canada in September, and we need a photographer and videographer to be there to capture content. And there is a company based in Toronto that is focusing exclusively on this market. We picked them. We had other choices, and other choices that were maybe slightly more cost competitive. But we believe in cannabis. We believe in this industry. And so when we can and we have the opportunity, we pick cannabis companies first.
Okay, so shared values and shared objectives is one of the key components in all the partnerships. Would you agree, Emmy?
Yes, of course. I prefer to work with companies which already have experience in cannabis and have the same goal to go to regulate it all and make it all accessible. And of course, we are also running also a travel agency for stoners. But of course, I like to go rather like to go with this company, and I expect something different than with the normal travel agency. Well, of course, it's not easy to deal with the negative aspects. Of course, over 20 years and for sure 2 dozen of experiences which nobody wants to do. However, I would not sit here if I would not be master of positive thinking. But I think in each kind of business you have really to keep on track and motivate yourself each day to master the challenges of this day. In the end, most of the problems are about money. So forget about the money. This day we will earn another money, which is a lot better than that which we lost yesterday. Whatever happened, we will sort it out in the future. And in this moment, it will block you. Whenever you want to solve the very creepy details why somebody did not what was expected. Go on. It solves itself. However, I was already talking about the heuristic, the lawyer aspect. There is still, you have to put in trust in the game. Without trust, no business will happen, never. And then my personal recommendation, yes, have a big vision where to go. And then still you have to find out stepwise, call it milestones or unique projects, small projects. But how can we dream of making millions together when we cannot invest 5,000 euro in going to a certain kind of show or something, you know? The small things sometimes tell you a lot about the bigger construction.
Thank you, Emmy. Jonas, yeah?
Yeah, may I jump in? To the question, the original question first. Would I, for example, work with cannabis companies first? It's a clear yes and clear no. Because I think the goal is to also expand the industry that we're working in. Expanding doesn't work if you only work with the stuff that you have inside. It's contradictions. I mean, expanding is expanding. Most of all, I also want to say that all eyes of the world are directed on cannabis right now. So it is also a good situation to just pull in resources that did not have connections with cannabis before. However, who build maybe, because as said, cannabis is a young industry. So it has all the problems of a young industry. However, the people and the resources that can be found outside the industry, they maybe have a history of 100 years or more. And the professionalism, the possibilities and the resources that can be that can be won for your business there, they can really make a difference. And that is why we went with the other two companies that I have into the collaboration with the university that was outside the general cannabis industry. That is why we offer those research and development services to all the companies out there who want to make a difference on the base of quality product and scientific information that was not created within the cannabis industry, but within a highly credible network of which they then can take profit, because they will directly profit from the credibility that the university has built up in over 100 years of existence. And so for that reason, yes, there can be some shared visions within the cannabis industry that will make it easier to find a certain plan or a certain getting together. However, it doesn't mean that the resources that will enable you to execute that plan will also be just only within the cannabis industry. And I think talking about strategic partnerships, I don't think that the approach of tomorrow it will solve itself is the right one. I think it's really doing the right thing to get to the point where you want to be. And I think that always it's a hard thing to do. I know it from my daily business, to do that split of having one leg in the now, taking care of all the issues, while actually preventing all the problems in the future days. And I must say, from my own experience, a solution you don't need to like. A solution is a solution in some situations only. And if you look only on the present moment, you may gonna choose things that you like because you don't consider the effects that they will have in the tomorrow or the week after.
Okay, so I agree. So let's look into the future then. So what do you think would be the partnerships that will be most important in the future? Maybe start with you, Liam.
I think I often talk about the growth of the cannabis industry, like the tech computer industry, which sort of grew in phases of complexity. And I think we were in the first phase of this industry. I think what's different with cannabis is that it's effectively going to bleed into like all of these other existing industries. So that's where strategic partnerships should come from outside the industry. You should be looking to take technology that exists in other industries and use it for cannabis to scale it faster. And ultimately, you know, the IP and the knowledge that you develop in your business will be seen to be valuable by the bigger players in those other industries. So that's where, you know, at the moment consolidation is happening within the industry, and in 4 or 5 years' time it'll be happening into lots of other industries. I think that's important to note. Okay. Those are the growth opportunities.
All right, thank you. If you add your producer's perspective, Fleta, would you agree? What would you add to that?
Yeah, look, one word which resonates with me all the time is adaptability. And to me, you can source skill sets anywhere, anyhow, as long as they're adaptable. So I think we've grown the business based on our own experience. We haven't necessarily gone and got skill sets from other countries or bigger brothers, which some of our competitors have done. In fact, I boast the most amazing, incredible team. And they've come from different backgrounds, but what they do bring are their own skill sets and, again, adaptability.
Mm-hmm. Emmy, maybe you want to add to this?
Yes, so I think we make the right strategic decision 3 years ago not to take part in the bidding for medicinal cannabis, and through the last 3 years, fantastic evolution with CBD products, and the strategic decision we made, we wanted to have good branded products for the end consumers, and we have Bank on board, we have Cannabis Gold on board, we have Hemp Touch, really wonderful products. And this is about now, about the future. We make the decision, and this is also strategic. And it's something like what you told. It's the cannabis market, the medicinal cannabis market in Germany will be decided by the quality of your cannabis product. Mm-hmm. And we decided strategically, and we close a part of the deal exactly on the show. Thanks to ICBC for organizing this. We make a strategic partnership with our Israeli partner, and we will import cannabis from Israel to Germany, and we hope we can serve the first patients in Germany before Christmas. Why? Because they have the highest density rate on studies, on preclinical studies of doctors, of patients, of knowledge, and this is like the really point which will decide this market in the future.
Okay, then Alison, and then we close with Jonas. Do you want to add to your future outlook of partnerships in cannabis space?
I'll just make a comment in closing from my experience in Canada. You know, I think strategic partnerships can be very formal, strategic relationships to move a certain part of the business forward. But I think that my experience in Canada has been that there's so many strategic partnerships, even at an informal level within the industry, and that we all have this common ground, which is that we're all working towards the same goal, which is moving forward medical cannabis and perhaps recreational cannabis in whatever market we're in. And so I think that there's a tremendous amount of power in that. Although there is going to be competition in the market, there's, at least what we see in Canada, a tremendous amount of collaboration even amongst licensed producers, because they sell to patients or they sell to recreational market, but they also wholesale product to each other. And so they have to have relationships with one another while also having a competitive place in the market. And so I think that events like this are tremendously important in terms of the opportunity to build relationships with everybody in this room. And so I think that's an important takeaway as well.
Thanks a lot. The question was what the future would look like, is going to look like. Well, I can't answer that. I don't know in the crystal ball, but I can tell you what I would like the future to look like. And for me, surely it is a future with where there is a lot of credible information available, created by a wide base of companies, resulting in many high-quality products that are out there, where people can rely on, because as said, this is what will do the reframing of the public perception. And preclinical information that Emanuel brought to speech is definitely a very, very, very important part of it, because preclinical information that we offer over the university, or the creation of such information that we offer, it's quite easy and quickly able to be done if you have the right access to it, for sure. And afterwards, the real clinical information that will then lead to bring in products through regulatory procedures. To do that, I mean, clinical trials on animals already, or then on humans, they always need to pass the ethical committees of the particular country. It's another state department or state institution that we were talking before about. So those ones, they need to be convinced in a very good way, and that only works on quality information, preclinical information in that case. So I guess in the future, a lot of that information should be created in order to back existing products, and then with time pass them through the regulatory procedures so they can be widely marketed in the same ways that we already know, so it actually can really manifest itself.
All right, thank you, Jonas. Thank you for the rest of the panelists. We're open for your questions.
Yes. One more time, let's hear it for this panel. Very informative.